super excited to bring this conversation with Alexandra Ampoffo. She's one of the founders of Women Connect and also a live music promoter and one of the UK's leading gig promoters, Metropolis Music, which is part of Live Nation Entertainment. She also heads up the Diversity Employee Resource Group. She has worked across the Yen Festival, Somerset House, the F-List, Black Music Coalition, UNICEF Music Group, and a lot more. She's worked with tons of amazing talent from Lauryn Hill to Arlo Parks, and she also founded Acoustic Live in 2013, an award-winning events company dedicated to the manifestation of acoustic talent. She does so many things across all aspects of diversity and inclusion in the music industry. On this conversation, we talk a lot about mental health, burnout, and surprisingly different strategies to get over anxiety. So without further ado, here's Alex. Alex, thank you so much for being here. Tell us before we start, what is it that you do, where you're from, what is the worst job experience you've ever had?
Okay, so I am Alex. As you know, I'm a promoter, basically specialising in music services, live music, consultancy. I'm also a qualified mental health first aider. I work across festivals. I have two not-for-profit organisations. One is called Acoustic Live UK, and that's basically focused on the manifestation of acoustic music and the underground scene. And the other is Women Connect, Women Connect UK everywhere. We're just basically creating safer spaces, inclusive spaces, and equal opportunities for women, gender fluid and non-conforming people in the creative industry. The worst job. I wouldn't say, do you know what? None of my jobs have been bad. I wouldn't say any of my jobs have been bad. I've been quite fortunate in that respect, but I think the worst kind of scenario I've had has been a job interview. I had an interview and I just applied at the company because I needed a job at the time, and I didn't do any research. I literally had no preparation the night before, so I got to the interview and I just literally didn't know anything about the company. It was terrible. Never again. So if anyone's listening to this and you're going to go for a job interview, please, I'm begging, definitely do research on the company before, because you'll end up like me, absolutely fluffing the interview and not getting the job.
You know, someone else on the podcast had their worst experience was an interview as well. And they also weren't prepared, but they actually got the job, which is shocking.
That's amazing, to be honest. Like that's someone who can just kind of talk their way through anything. But I'm not like that. I really have to prepare for stuff before I get there. Like I just can't. I trip up over my words quite a lot.
So Alex, you are a live music promoter besides all the work you do with your nonprofit. So what is it that you do?
So basically a promoter, and I totally understand what you're saying, because a lot of people ask me, what do you do? But they don't really understand what goes into promoting. It's not necessarily about being online and shouting the loudest about artists that we look after. It's actually becoming an experienced booker, a marketer, ticketing, production and accounting type of person. So I promote hundreds of shows per year. I'm committed to working with acts from their inception and helping to build their careers in basically across the UK as touring artists. So we start with like small venues. We get up and coming musicians to debut their headline show in small venues and basically build them and work them up all the way through to stadium level. So that can include anything from budgeting, finding the venue, curating the whole tour. So when I say we work across the UK, I mean it's not just London. A lot of our tours will include regional cities like Manchester, Leeds, Nottingham, Birmingham, all of that kind of stuff. We'll literally curate the whole tour from start to finish.
That's amazing. And you've worked on lots of amazing tours. You've worked with Lauryn Hill, Arlo Parks, which is one of my personal favorites.
Yeah.
Mura Masa. So that's really exciting. So did you always know that you wanted to work in music?
I think I always knew I wanted to work in music, but I didn't know exactly what jobs were available in music. Because, when you're growing up and, your parents, your teachers, everyone's kind of telling you, become a lawyer, become a doctor, become a nurse, like all that kind of stuff. That was great, but that's not where my strengths lie. And I used to play the violin. I still kind of play the violin, but I used to play a lot more than I do now. And I think for me, that's where my passion was born. I love music. I love writing music. I love reading music. I just love everything about music. But I didn't ever want to be the front person. I never wanted to be the artist or anything that was front and center. So this job was just perfect for me. I just never knew it existed.
Yes, I think that's the case with the majority of us going to the arts as a whole.
Yeah.
So did you go to university? How did you start? How did you get your foot in the door?
I did go to university, but I didn't do anything to do with music. I just did, what did I do? Business and leadership management course. It was great. I learned a lot of things, like, how to do your taxes and all that kind of stuff. But I only went to university because I felt like if I don't make it into the music industry, because it's very hard to get into, I need something to fall back on, and a business degree is perfect. You can kind of enter any kind of industry with a business degree. That's the only reason I went. I won't lie, I met some of my greatest friends, like my lifelong friends at university. But if it was up to me, looking back, I'm not sure if I would have gone again, if I had to redo my teen years, obviously. So I went to university. I was basically working at a venue called Box Park. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but they've got many different branches, one in Shoreditch, one in Croydon, and one in Wembley. But at the time, there was only the Shoreditch one that was erected. So I used to work there and basically just curate their Sunday shows, which was an acoustic show. And that's how my company was born, basically, Acoustic Live. We used to curate shows every single week, every single Sunday, 4 artists on a lineup. We've been doing it. I think we founded our company in 2013, and it's an award-winning events company now. Like I said, we're dedicated to the manifestation of acoustic talent and just keeping stripped back music alive. I feel like with Acoustic Live, we just really built a dedicated community and provided a powerful platform, and that, artists came to us because we were offering a chance to flourish. And that's basically where my musical journey started.
Cool. So tell me a little bit more about founding Acoustic Live. Did you do it on your own? How did you first get the idea, and what were, I guess, your first steps to do your first launch event?
So like I said, we're a multi-vessel platform. At first, it's just me and my brother. We do everything together, literally. Like, he's my best friend. And we came up with the idea because we were running events in Shoreditch, and we were running around and being part of all of this amazing stuff at the time, being really creative. But we had nothing to call our own. And I think a big part of us starting Acoustic Live was, when I was growing up, there was youth centres everywhere. There was always a lot of stuff for people of my age and my demographic to do. But when I got to a certain age, like 18, 19, 20, it's that a lot of these youth centres were closing down because of government funding that wasn't stretching towards the art. So me and my brother's called Q, we basically just came up with the idea because we just thought, you know what, there's nowhere for anyone of our demographic, our age, our background to go to for free and experience, dedicated free events. I just want to mention that Acoustic Live is always free. If we ever do charge a ticket for Acoustic Live, it's for charity. So we never charge for personal gain. It is a completely self-sufficient company, and our core mission is through innovation and collaboration with other brands, basically.
That is really cool, and you've been doing it for so long, but you've doing it alongside your day job.
Yeah.
Because you currently work for Metropolis Music. So you started Acoustic Live. You got your job at Live Nation. Did Acoustic Live help you to get a job, to get noticed in the industry, or was that a separate
I think
thing?
they were separate. Basically, to get my job, I was just basically talking to someone who already works at the company. They thought I'd be great for the job, and they just invited me for an interview. I went for the interview, and then I got the job. That was basically it. I've not actually been at Metropolis for that long. I've only been there 2 years, so I'm still finding my feet. But it's such a beautiful place to work. Like, I've really found some of my best friends and family. Like I said to you previously, me and Raven she's literally my best friend, and she's also part of Women Connect. But we met through Metropolis, so we've only known each other for 2 years. But a lot of the time, people look at us and think, "Oh my god, how long have you guys been friends for? You seem like you've known each other for yonks." No, me and Raven didn't grow up together. We met at Metropolis, and we've really fostered a really healthy relationship.
Some of my best friends in London came through work as well.
It rarely happens. I don't think I've ever worked with someone that I'm actually genuinely close to in real life. A lot of my colleagues that I've had over the years, they've all been cool. I've never had any issues with colleagues, but I've never been going to their house, sleeping over their house, meeting up, just being best friends with someone that you actually work with and have met through work. So it's really nice.
That's interesting. Yeah, they tell you that you shouldn't mix, right, friends with business, but I have been the opposite of all of that. All my businesses that I started were with friends, and I think, I don't know. It kind of depends on you and your friend, of course, but it's really nice to know that you're in a supportive environment, because you are also working to make the music industry as a whole more inclusive and more supporting, right? So let's dive into that because that's really interesting. And so when did you found Women Connect?
Women Connect, it's a hard one to say when it was actually founded, because there was a lot of I'll give you a timeline of what happened with Women Connect. So basically I started working at Metropolis Music, and I'd always had this idea to kind of bring, there was an undeniable need for women in the creative industry to come together organically. So I met Sean, who's also a part of Women Connect, and she also works at Metropolis, also one of my really good friends. She heard my idea, she thought it was great. She's like, you know what? I'd love to be involved. We need to do something. I don't know what it looks like, whether it's a company, an event, or whatever it is, we need to do something. And she started working at Metropolis 2 months after me. So again, we'd formed a really strong relationship really quite early into us working together. So she loved the idea, but we didn't have a name for our idea. So Raven started working at Metropolis, I think a month or two after Sean. So she jumped on board. She heard the idea. She loved it. And I started talking to Bree and Becky, who work at Sony. They're also part of Women Connect. There's 5 of us. I took the idea to Bree. She said, this is amazing. Let's do something for International Women's Day. And we did it. And after that, the 4 of us came together and we were like, we need to do this again. And then the 5th counterpart of Women Connect, Becky, she came along a little bit after that. She was like, I love what you guys are doing. I love the event. I love the idea. Like, this is amazing. Can I be involved? We were like, yeah, the more the merrier. The 5 of us, we share basically all the tasks, the emails, the mailers, the socials, all of that stuff. So Becky jumped on board, and then it's just been flourishing ever since. I think that was in 2019. Our first event was last year, yeah. So it's only been about a year for us. We're still a baby company.
Before we head into all of that, just give anyone a quick brief of what is Women Connect.
In a nutshell, we are a female-forward collective creating safer and all-inclusive spaces for non-binary, gender-fluid people in the creative industry. Our collective was basically birthed from a place of passion and the need for women in the creative industry to come together. So what we're trying to do is create a safe space and a community for our followers and attendees, and we just want to encourage one another to share experience, share resources, opportunities, and knowledge. I think there's something really, really quite sacred in enabling people confidence and the opportunity to thrive within their professional environment. So if you want to get involved with Women Connect, we are Women Connect UK everywhere, literally on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. That's how you find us, Women Connect UK.
And when events were allowed in real life, all your events had a music sort of side to it.
They had, they're all themed. So the first event was centered around International Women's Day, and that was more music centric, yes, because we had a lot of people from labels and consultancy firms who were involved in music or who have worked in TV Sync just come and sit on our panel and talk to the audience about how they can get involved in their industries and how they got their foot in the door and that kind of stuff, and what they're doing now to hold the door open for other women. That was our first event. Our second event was period poverty. So that wasn't really centered around music. It was more centered around the period poverty crisis in the UK. A lot of women can't actually afford sanitary products. So we just basically wanted to raise money and raise awareness about how many women are actually suffering without sanitary products. I mean, the fact that there was a charge on tampons and sanitary products in the UK was absolutely ludicrous to even think about. So we just wanted to raise the awareness and hopefully move towards a society where we're not even paying tax. And to be honest, we shouldn't even really have to be paying for sanitary products. A lot of girls are in school and they're only maybe like 9, 10, 11 years old, and they might be from a single parent household that can't afford to always have the right sanitary products for them. I mean, a lot of people have a heavy flow. People come on all the time when they're not expecting it, and it really is a struggle. Like when you look into the stats for period poverty, you realise how dire the stats actually are. So we wanted to raise sanitary products and kind of send them to colleges and schools and people who needed them most. Even to this day, we actually still send out products. We get a lot of donations. I package them up and I send them out to people who need them. So that was our second event. Our third one was mental health in music. As you know, I've got a mental health first aid qualification. So to me, it's very important to not just raise awareness, but create a space for people to want to come and have an open dialogue about mental health, because I think a lot of the time it's really hard to talk about because there's still such a taboo when it comes to mental health. So that's why we did that event, because it was really important to us. I mean, every person in Women Connect has had some kind of scenario where they've struggled with their mental health. And we know a lot of our attendees had as well. So it was important to us to raise that awareness and create that community and create that space for people to come and talk freely. And our fourth event was in Manchester, which was really, really good. I mean, it was our first regional event. We wanted to make sure that Women Connect was not only for people in London, but people across the UK. So we took it to Manchester and we replicated our first event, which was basically 3 women on the panel and them just telling the attendees how they got to their positions in whatever musical role that they've currently had. So we had Lucy Hunt, Natalie Morrisley and Shel Zena, and they were all just incredible, talking to our attendees about radio, touring, venues, all of that kind of stuff that people don't really know about. And lastly, our 5th event was another International Women's Day event, which was in March. So that would mark our 1-year anniversary. So we just had a massive party at the Sony Music headquarters, and we had Stephanie from Naysara come and talk about the gaming community, women in gaming. And we also had Jen, who came to talk about women who work in politics.
I think that what you started doing at Women Connect can somehow be tied to your other initiative, which is the Diversity Employee Resource Group, which you had up, right? And then you started Embrace Nation at Live Nation UK, which is a hub fostering or promoting racial equality in and outside the workplace, which has become a huge hub for everyone in Live Nation Entertainment. So how did that come about? Because you haven't been there in the company for this long. So how did you get to head this?
There are loads of employee resource groups, because we are really focused on promoting diversity. Even before I got there, they were focused on promoting diversity within, they had We Nation, which is for women, they have Pride Nation, which is for the LGBTQ plus community, and they have various other diversity initiatives. But they were specifically to me, I wanted, because we have a lot of Asian, Black, mixed employees, and there's all these different groups for all of these employees. But I basically wanted a cultural hub that could strive towards racial equality, but for everyone. And there's no kind of divide where I work. Everybody's kind of equal. Everybody's allowed to speak their mind and speak about their, racial tension in and outside of the workplace. But I wanted Embrace Nation to be a learning hub. So it's where we come to speak, freely about, okay, I've heard about this artist and he's a rapper, but I don't really understand rap. Can you explain the difference between rap and grime to me? For example, someone who hasn't necessarily grown up in the culture of rap or grime, but maybe works across those genres but doesn't really know the difference between the genres. It's a place for basically people to come and learn, and that's what I wanted. So it happened.
Did you have support inside the business?
Oh, yes, definitely.
To do that?
There would be no Embrace Nation if it wasn't for the business itself. Like, we can't just erect employee resource groups for ourselves and not run it by the people at the top of the business. And they loved the idea and they said this is absolutely needed. And I'm glad they did, because diversity is extremely important. So yeah, we had all the support.
That's great. Do you have a diverse team inside the company, or is it something that you still need to improve?
Our team's pretty diverse. I think there's within Metropolis we have mixed race people from the LGBTQ plus community, a Jewish person, Black people, mixed race. I said mixed race already. Black, white, and there's a good gender balance as well. I think it's 50-50 men and women. So when it comes to diversity within our company, I literally have no qualms. I have no problems. I can't really speak about it too much because there's nothing to speak about. A lot of people are like, oh, does your company need to be more diverse? I'm like, no, because we literally have people from all walks of the earth and they are very welcoming. And I've never felt like an outsider within Metropolis. I came and I've just always felt very welcome amongst people of all ethnicities. So I'm really happy to be where I am right now.
That's amazing. I mean, that's definitely lucky because it's not the overall experience that people tend to have, right, in the industry.
Like I said, or like you said, sorry, it's not a lot of people's reality. They don't actually get to work in a diverse workplace or to have, the gender balance and ethnicity and different people from different walks of life. They don't get that. So I have to be mindful when I'm speaking about my company, like I'm one of the lucky ones to actually work where I work because I don't really have any problems there.
Yeah, but you still decided to start all these initiatives, and hand them on, I guess, to make sure that doesn't happen to anyone else, which is really incredible.
Because, you can have a diverse workplace, but it's still about fostering that community within the workplace where people feel open and safe enough to come and say if they don't understand something, like why you shouldn't touch a Black woman's afro hair. Like a lot of these things people don't know because they didn't grow up around, they maybe didn't grow up around that kind of culture. So I think it's important to, whether your workplace is diverse or not, even more so if it's diverse, just have this open dialogue.
Yeah, and I think all the education you were mentioning, I think people can be quite scared of saying that they don't know something. And
sometimes you just really have to immerse yourself in the culture and immerse yourself in people who understand the culture just to get it. And I think that's really important. Like you said, you can't expect people to know everything.
So you seem like you're very much of a person that looks at something, decides to do it, and goes and do it.
Yeah, right? I mean, it's taken me a couple of years to get to this point. I never used to be like this, but I'd say that's correct to the person I am right now.
So how did you get to that point? What helped you along the way, I guess? Or who?
Do you know what? This is going to sound really random, but I had quite severe anxiety when I was growing up. And when I actually spoke to my GP about it. I was like, I always feel anxious when I have to talk to other people. And they said, go and get a job in retail and that'll really help you. So I was like, oh God, I don't want to work in retail because it's really hard to, speak to people when you're not naturally kind of that confident. So I got a job in retail and I was forced to speak to people. You have to speak to the customers. You have to greet them. You have to speak to your manager if there's a problem. And customers come and speak to you because they need the help. And that really helped with my anxiety. So I think that's what the main thing that's helped me get to this stage of being more of a confident person and more confident in what my calling is. I think working in retail, I'm not even joking, it really helped me.
That's such a good idea,
you're forced to, like, you're working there, you're there for 8 hours a day. You can't not speak to the customers. You're forced to help them. So you're forced to speak to people literally all day, every single day, even your colleagues. If you're looking in the stockroom for something and you can't find it, you have to ask. And that really helped me just come out of my shell.
That's great. So then you worked in retail, you did university, you got your first job. So what was the hardest things about the music industry? Did you know about what roles you thought it would fit in? Was there a big learning curve for you in terms of getting a job and coming to this point of your career where you're at?
I think, it was really hard to kind of establish myself, I think, because I was so young. When I got into the music industry, I was only 18 years old and I was at university at the same time. So I wasn't permanently in London. I went to uni outside of London and just trying to be that innovative person and trying to, collaborate with other brands. It was really hard because no one really kind of gives you that footing if you're not based in London. I feel like London is that musical hub of the UK and, are you based in London? Can you pop in for a quick meeting? It's like, it wasn't as easy as that. And I feel like for myself, I really wanted to, I believe in charitable purposes. I believe that they carry the fundamental factors of every community, including music. But I feel like leading with that wasn't necessarily the best thing I could have done at the time. So I think that was one of my main, it wasn't a weakness, but it was definitely something that I fell short on because everything that I wanted to do was like, oh, let's help charity and, let's do this for this person. And you have to recognize when you get into the music industry, not everybody can work for free. A lot of people don't want to work for free and a lot of people shouldn't work for free. So you have to, make a point of trying to make sure that all of that falls in line with your ethos.
Yes, absolutely. And then I want to talk more about the charitable things. So you, of course, launched Women's Connect. You work in music, which is usually a very social place. I used to be a manager and a lot of the deals that I signed were at someone's club or in the middle of the night. It involved a lot of talking and a lot of networking, which is this dirty word that we're trying to make it less dirty. So how has it been your experience in terms of course, Women's Connect is a lot about connecting people. So how did you start if you didn't come from a music family, creating a support system and a support network? Did you always know how to ask for help? And how did you start building those relationships?
I think also, saying that I worked in retail, but I also worked in a lot of bars and a lot of like music venues. I think a lot of my relationships came from, being in that kind of culture of you meet a lot of music managers and you meet a lot of agents and people who work at record labels when you work in venues. So, they're becoming and doing massive shows, and that's how you meet people. And I mean, I guess a lot of the time I was the only Black person, not only the only Black woman, but the only Black person. And you stand out. People remember you because you were the only one there. And I've got massive hair, so I feel like that made me more of a memorable character. So when I go places, people are like, oh, like I met you the other day at this venue. And that helped me. When people remember me, it was easier for me because I was always, like I said, I had so much anxiety and I never wanted to be the person to reach out and speak to people. And then when they remember you, they reach out to you and they say, oh, I've got this going on at this venue. Like, would you like to come along? Or like, would you like to work this show? And I give a lot of credit to my brother. He helped me a lot. Like he is the music industry. Like he literally knows everybody. It's crazy. But he helped me a lot and he introduced me to a lot of people. So that's how I began a lot of my relationships, and I've just managed to maintain them, thankfully.
That's great. And for you, the maintaining of your relationship is easier than just the striking up the conversation with a stranger. Is that
definitely 100%? Because I don't know. Like sometimes speaking to a stranger can be so daunting because you don't know how they're going to receive you, especially being someone who's of a minority in this country. You go through so many experiences that are negative. You almost don't want to speak to anyone. So I think that's what my main gripe was. But once you have that relationship and once you have established yourself in that person's life, it's easier to speak to them. It's easier to reach out and be like, hey, what's your number? Like, let's meet up for a coffee. Or, I really want to work on this project. Do you want to collaborate with me? Or, do you know what? It's just so much easier when you have the relationship to maintain it.
No, yes, I agree. I mean, this is all there's all the interviews so far are literally about figuring out how people did their things, and it's important to hear different voices and stories because people will connect with one thing or another. But I was a bit shocked when he said that he used to be the only Black person in the Black women, especially in the room. Do you think that's changed recently?
I wouldn't say it's changed recently. I feel it's changing, definitely. But I mean, there's still a lot of work to be done because the music industry as a whole, the artists, it's very diverse, and the people who dominate the charts, but the people who are behind the scenes, I wouldn't say it's as diverse as you might think it is. Especially when I was growing up. I was growing up, I was literally the only Black person in the room, in a lot of rooms. So, but I'd like to see that change happen in my lifetime. I really hope it does happen because it's not like the applicants aren't out there. The talent is out there. The pool of talent is massive. It's about getting these people in and training them and upskilling them and making sure that they retain their jobs within the music industry.
Absolutely. No, that is definitely needs to change. And it's not it's not as bad as some other sectors of culture, but it's still pretty bad in terms of inclusion in that aspect, for sure. I can only imagine that probably made your anxiety issues worse if you're like already kind of shy and then you stick out for one reason or the other. And so when did you go about getting your mental health first aid qualification? What is that exactly?
A mental health first aid qualification is basically someone who's able to kind of identify when there's a mental health issue within someone and signpost them to the right place to go. So what I do, I'm not a counsellor. I don't therapize anyone. I just basically listen to them and I alert people if there is something alarming going on, and I signpost them to the right place to go. So people that come to me, we do a lot of talking, I do a lot of listening, and if they need professional help, I will send them to the right person.
I bet that comes in handy in the music industry.
I didn't think many people would be coming to me to speak about it, but once people find out you're involved in, so you have some kind of mental health role, they feel safe with you, and I really take pride in that. Like a lot of people have come to me and said, I need help with this, I need help with that, this is how I'm feeling right now. And I really take pride in being able to help people, like not only professionally, but on a really kind of one-to-one basis and a close level.
Do you think your own struggles with anxiety helped you to get closer to this?
Definitely,
this cause?
Because my mom, she's been great. She does a lot of work around mental health, and she's always been someone who's spoken openly about mental health. I think that's where my first kind of experiences with mental health came from. But my anxiety, again, it's not as bad as some people really. They struggle day to day. When I was a child, I wouldn't even, they used to call me a mute. Like I wouldn't speak to anyone when I was a child. And I think that's where my anxiety came from, not having that confidence, just be like, hey, I'm Alex and I want to be involved in this. And growing up in an area which wasn't diverse definitely contributed to my experiences and my anxiety. And as an adult, I just want to make sure that nobody has to go through some of the things that I went through as a child. So that's kind of what's kind of, spurred me on to say, okay, I want to get this qualification. I want to help people.
That's amazing, Alex. And you've done a really good job because you're very outspoken and you speak really well now. And you're doing all these things and you're juggling all these projects at the same time. And so how do you currently deal with stress and pressure? Do you have any tips?
What? How do you even deal with stress and pressure? I think I've been trying to kind of treat myself to things that I really deserve, like, going on spa days and taking days off and actually putting time into myself, because I would work myself into the ground to the point where I was really burnt out before, just because I wanted to get ahead. I wanted to make sure I had everything done. I wanted to just make sure everything was tight and no one could say, oh, you haven't done this or you haven't done that. But now, do you know what? If it's not done, it's not done. I'm not going to stress myself. I'm not going to kill myself over this. Like, you have to really put yourself first. And I've been trying to do that. I mean, it's only been probably about a year of me trying to do that, but it's working for me. Like, I don't need to be stressed. Nobody needs to be stressed. So why? That's what I'm trying to do. Just make sure I'm putting time into myself.
So many of us go through the burnout phase, and it's
not good at all. Like, I don't know if there's any kind of tips that you have that when you're stressed, is there anything that you might do? Because I need all the tips.
Yeah. So basically, it's something that's really hard for me because I tend to be a control freak. I was an events manager and talent manager. So for a while, when I had my own company, everything depended on me. And so that was, very stressful. When things fall apart, it's all on your head. But my grandmother has this saying, which doesn't make a lot of sense in English, but in Portuguese it goes something like that. That if there's no solution to a problem, then that's the solution. And I have her initials tattooed on my arm because we were very close, and she drawn her initials and it's tattooed. So I look at it a lot, and so when it comes to that point where I'm fuming and I really can't think of a solution, I just go, that's the solution. That's it. Just accepting that I can't change this is the solution. You can do only so much in life. You're not God or whatever it is that you believe that's the guiding force of the universe. But because some stuff would happen and I would kill myself trying to figure it all out, when all honesty is just not possible. But I think you kind of have to go through the crazy stress phases to get that sort of confidence at the same time, So I don't know. I don't know if that's the greatest advice.
I hear you completely. Like, you have to be stressed at some point in your life to appreciate when you're up and you're not stressed.
Yeah, but I think having the ability to, now when things are like falling apart, and I just try to step back and say, okay, what is it that I can do in this situation? What can't I do? If there's something I can do, then maybe we gotta accept some of the failures in life, and move on, because there is, I think we get too caught up, and I especially tend to think everything that I can solve every single thing in the world, and it's just learning that I probably can't. It'd be great if I could. I think if we all could solve all the problems in the world, it would be sorted, but it's definitely not the reality. And I think learning not to do everything on my own, asking for help, that's something that I learned to do later in life, about asking for help. And I think that's really important, to learn that asking for help is not a weakness. But it's hard. But I don't know, it's interesting to hear your background with anxiety and, not talking, etc. And to see where you are right now, or you do events or you do panels, you're involved in so many organizations. It's really, really exciting.
Oh, thank you. And I appreciate it, because it's been a long time coming. I feel like I'm really at peace with where I'm at right now. And Acoustic Live, Women Connect, going great. I love working at Metropolis. Like, I couldn't be in a more blessed place.
Alex, since we're now talking about good things, give us an advice, either for something that you would like to tell yourself when you were younger, or you would like to tell anyone who's going into the music industry right now.
My one piece of advice, is it just one piece, or can I say more than?
You can go as many as you want.
Okay, my piece of advice would be, if you want loyalty, get a dog. It's the music industry, the people aren't here to be your friends, so you have to just make sure that you know exactly what you're doing and don't expect anyone to be loyal to you. It's like I said, they're not your friends, they're not your family members, they're your colleagues, they're working relationships. So if you want loyalty, get a dog. That's my first piece. And my second piece would be, don't be afraid to ask. The worst thing that someone can say to you is no.
I love that. That's my motto as well. And I ask things for people all the time. And, it's the way to do it. I mean, I asked you guys to do this podcast, and so here we are.
And here we are.
Alex, thank you so much for taking the time to talking to us. I'm going to put all the links to all the amazing things you do on the show notes and get people to subscribe to the Women's Connect group, which is amazing. Highly recommended.
No, honestly, thank you for having me. It was such a great chat. I'm sorry it took so long for us to get here as well, but no, we're here. We finally done it, and yeah, it was really good.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much, Alex, and have a good rest of the week for you.
You too.
Thank you for listening to the I Like Networking podcast. Please remember to share, subscribe, and review the podcast so that more people can find us. All the information discussed on this episode will be on the show notes. See you next time.